walked into the hotel he secretly owned, proudly wearing his MAGA hat. She kicked him out, thinking she was making a statement. But when she found out who he really was, her entire world flipped. What happens next will leave you speechless. Don't miss this shocking story. Comments below, where are you watching from? And if you like and love our story, kindly subscribe our channel, Life Inspirational and Motivational Tales that explore themes of love, unity, and patriotism. Stay with us always for interesting stories. Let's start the story. Ethan Carter stepped through the double-glass doors of the Pinecrest Hotel, his sturdy boots clicking softly against the scuffed tile floor. The air inside carried the faint, musty scent of age, a sign of years spent without the rejuvenation it so desperately needed. He paused just inside, his keen eyes surveying the lobby with quiet focus. It was exactly as he had imagined. Outdated, weary, and holding on to the faintest memories of better days. The beige walls bore the unmistakable mark of time, patches where the paint had faded under relentless sunlight. The carpet, thin and worn in places, showed the unmistakable patterns of decades-old foot traffic. In one corner stood a plastic fern, its drooping leaves dulled to a grayish green that only emphasized the lobby's lack of vibrancy. The potential was undeniable. Beneath the tired decor was a structure with good bones, a place waiting to be transformed. Dressed in a plaid shirt and faded jeans, Ethan appeared to be just another weary traveler stopping for a night's rest. His attire was a deliberate choice. As the new owner of the Pinecrest Hotel, Ethan preferred to see the operation as any guest would, unfiltered by the false pleasantries often offered to an authority figure. He didn't need anyone to know he was in charge. Not yet. On his head rested the catalyst for what was about to unfold, a bright red MAGA hat with "Make America Great Again" boldly embroidered across the front. For Ethan, the hat was just an accessory, a casual nod to his personal values. But to others, it symbolized something far more polarizing. What Ethan hadn't anticipated was how deeply that simple piece of fabric could alter an interaction before a single word was spoken. Behind the counter stood Sophie Matthews, the hotel's manager. In her early 40s, Sophie had a sharp eye for detail and an even sharper tongue. Dressed in a crisp blazer, she radiated authority, her posture straight as an arrow, and her expression carefully neutral as she helped another guest. When Ethan stepped into the lobby, her attention flickered toward him briefly before snapping to the MAGA hat. Her polite smile faltered, her brow tightening ever so slightly as her gaze lingered. Ethan approached the desk with an easy smile. "Afternoon," he said, producing a folded piece of paper from his pocket. "I've got a reservation. Name's Carter." Sophie's eyes darted from the paper to the hat and back again. For a moment, she didn't move, her expression frozen in mild disbelief. Then, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Your name again?" she asked, her tone clipped. "Ethan Carter," he repeated, sliding the paper across the counter. He raised an eyebrow, sensing a tension he couldn't yet place. Sophie glanced down briefly at the paper but made no move to retrieve it. Instead, she looked back at him, her eyes narrowing slightly. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice laced with an edge of condescension. "But we have a strict policy against offensive attire. I'm afraid your hat doesn't align with the values of this establishment." Ethan blinked, caught off guard. "Offensive attire?" he echoed, his voice calm but tinged with curiosity. "It's just a hat." Sophie crossed her arms, her polished demeanor giving way to something colder. This hotel prioritizes inclusivity and respect for all guests. That hat promotes a divisive message, and we can't allow it here." Ethan studied her for a long moment. He could have ended the conversation then and there, revealed his identity, and watched her scramble to backtrack. But what would be the point in that? He decided to let her dig the hole a little deeper. "Well," Ethan said finally, tipping his hat slightly, "if that's how you want to handle things, I'll be on my way." Sophie's lips curled into a faint smile of satisfaction. "Have a good day, sir," she replied, her tone dripping with polite venom. Ethan walked out without another word, the faintest smile tugging at the corner of his lips. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The next morning, the lobby bustled with its usual activity. Sophie stood behind the desk, her professional smile firmly in place, as she assisted guests with their check-ins and questions. To the untrained eye, she was the epitome of polished customer service, her demeanor exuding confidence and control. That confidence wavered when the lobby doors swung open and Ethan walked in again. This time, the casual traveler was gone. Ethan wore a perfectly tailored navy suit, his polished shoes clicking against the tile floor with quiet authority. He carried himself with a calm but unmistakable command, and his gaze swept the room with intent. Sophie didn't notice him at first, too focused on the task at hand. She greeted a group of new arrivals with her usual charm. "Good morning," she said. "Welcome to the Pinecrest Hotel. How can I assist you?" A man in the group stepped forward. "We're here for a meeting with Mr. Ethan Carter," he said. Sophie's professional smile faltered for a fraction of a second before she recovered. "I'm sorry," she said smoothly. "I don't recall a reservation under that name. Are you sure you're in the right place?" The man exchanged a brief glance with his colleagues. "We're quite sure," he said, his tone polite but firm. Before Sophie could respond, Ethan stepped forward. "Good morning, Sophie," he said, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable authority. Sophie turned sharply, her eyes widening as recognition dawned. "You!" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan offered a small, knowing smile. "Nice to see you again." Her face turned pale. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ethan folded his hands in front of him, his expression unreadable. "I believe these folks already answered that question," he said. "They're here for a meeting with me. You see, Sophie, I'm the new owner of this hotel." The words hit Sophie like a physical blow. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. The confident air she had carried just moments ago had evaporated entirely. "I didn't realize," she stammered. "But much is clear," Ethan said, his tone firm. "Let's talk about that, shall we?" The conference room was quiet, save for the faint hum of the air conditioning. The long table was surrounded by staff members, all sitting with tense expressions. At the head of the table stood Ethan, his commanding presence filling the room. Sophie sat at the far end, her shoulders slumped, her confidence from the previous day completely gone. "Yesterday," Ethan began, his voice steady, "I witnessed something deeply concerning. Sophie, why don't you tell everyone here what happened?" Sophie's face flushed as all eyes turned to her. She hesitated, her voice trembling as she tried to explain her actions. Her attempts to justify herself faltered under Ethan's calm but incisive questioning. "Just a guess based on a hat?" Ethan said, his tone unwavering. "That's not just unprofessional, it's unacceptable. This hotel is about creating a welcoming environment for every guest, no exceptions." Sophie's eyes darted to her colleagues, but no one came to her defense. Finally, she lowered her gaze. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "It won't happen again," Ethan nodded. "It won't," he agreed. "You have a choice. You can resign today, or you can commit to a rigorous training program to rebuild the trust you've lost. But let me be clear, there will be no second chances." Sophie swallowed hard. "I'll stay," she said, her voice trembling. "I'll do whatever it takes." Months later, the Pinecrest Hotel had undergone a remarkable transformation. The dated decor was replaced with sleek, modern furnishings that breathed new life into the space. The staff, inspired by Ethan's leadership, embraced a culture of respect and professionalism. Sophie, once a symbol of rigidity and judgment, had become one of the most valued members of the team. She approached every interaction with warmth and humility, determined to prove she had learned from her mistakes. Ethan watched her one evening as she helped a family check in. Her kindness and attention to detail were evident in every gesture. He smiled, feeling a deep sense of pride, not just in Sophie's growth, but in the hotel they had built together. For Ethan, it wasn't just about running a successful business. It was about proving that change was possible, that people could grow if given the chance. And as he watched Sophie greet another guest with genuine warmth, he knew they had created something truly special. Now it's your turn. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about this story? Have you ever experienced or witnessed something like this? We'd love to hear your real-life experiences and perspectives. Let's start a conversation and learn from each other. Comments below. Where are you watching from? And if you like and love our story, kindly subscribe our channel, Life Inspirational and Motivational Tales that explore themes of love, unity, and patriotism. Stay with us always for interesting stories.